Hello and welcome back to another episode of Everything Suffolk. My name is Brian. I'm joined today by County Executive Ed Romaine, as
Hey.
well as Legislator Chad Lennon.
Hello.
Legislator, do you mind introducing yourself a little bit?
Sure.
And your military service?
Sure. I'm Legislator Chad Lennon, currently serving as the legislator for the 6th District. My background is in military. I was 4 years active duty in the Marine Corps, been a reservist for the last 12 years, and currently a major, and going to be selected, I was selected for Lieutenant Colonel and serving down at the Pentagon right now.
Great. Well, that's perfect because today's episode is on Veterans Affairs in Suffolk County. County Executive, if you mind just talking a little bit about the veterans community in Suffolk County?
Absolutely. I'm Ed Romaine. I'm the Suffolk County Executive. And Suffolk County has the second most veterans of any county in the nation. Only San Diego has more, and they have a lot of fixed bases. We don't have a lot of fixed bases in Suffolk, but we have a lot of people that choose to live here who have served our country. So this is a county in which veterans matter, and we are concerned about veterans. We have in this county a Suffolk County Veterans Service Agency that works with our towns and other community groups to make sure that the veterans are getting the services they need and they're aware of the services that they need, and that's important. So I could not think of a better representative than the 6th Legislative District, than Legislator Chad Lennon, a major in our Marine Reserves and someone that never forgets where he came from. We just had a marathon, and he put on extra weight to represent 22 pounds, was it?
Yes, sir.
22 pounds to represent the 22 veterans that take, unfortunately, their lives each and every day. And he's made veteran suicide one of his top issues and priorities to try to resolve that, to make sure that we have the mental health professionals out there working to limit those, because serving in the military is honorable, but sometimes it's distressing, and sometimes even separation from service, you find that there are bad memories that come back, that haunt you, that make you think suicidal thoughts. And to call attention to this, Chad, I cannot thank you enough, because it's important. All of our veterans, and every veteran matters, and their lives all matter. Talk a little bit about how you approach serving our veterans.
Sure. So thank you also for your support in combating that. And yes, it is 22 veterans today are taking their own life on average. And according to the CDC, for every completed suicide, there are 25 attempts. So that means on average per day, 22 veterans are taking their own life and 550 are attempting to take their own life. That's, if you take a step back, and I think it does cause a pause of reflecting upon that, that is a massive number. And how do you go about solving the suicide epidemic? Well, it's not a suicide epidemic, it's layered. You have unemployment, underemployment, homelessness, all these other issues, mental health concerns. So if we start attacking those issues underneath that, I think that's how we're going to come to the resolution on this. At the same time, if you're outside the veteran and military community, folks have no idea of what's going on. Only 1% serve our country. Only 6% have served. And I say that number will probably drop in half in the next 10 years. At the end of 1975, the end of the Vietnam War, the draft stopped. And now it's all volunteer. And the life expectancy of veterans has dropped down drastically since World War II. And that's why I think if we project, we're going to have less and less of a population of veterans, less and less of an understanding of what they're going through.
But a greater need to focus in on helping our veterans and making sure they have the support they need. And you're absolutely right. You know, I know some people are concerned about illegal immigrants coming to this country, and that's a whole different issue, which I don't want to discuss. But I will say that they are receiving services, housing, food, clothing. And sometimes some of our veterans, when they get detached from service, don't get those types of services. You see veterans that are homeless, that are living in the woods or on the street. You don't see them getting housing that they should be getting. It is concerning to me, and it's something that I want to work on resolving.
And I think if you look at how do we get here? Well, let's look at New York State. What is the definition of a veteran? There's over 20, depending on what you're talking about. And I've run into veterans who've been told you're not a veteran, who don't believe they're a veteran. The reasons for that are there's multiple discharge characterizations you can receive: honorable, general, other than honorable, or there's three of the five discharge characterizations. Some folks have been told if you don't have an honorable discharge, you're not a veteran. Well, that's not true. Some folks have been told, well, you didn't go to combat, you're not a veteran. That's not true.
No.
We have a lot of great resources here with our Veterans Treatment Court, the Veterans Docket, the Veterans Pod in the jail. There's a lot out there. And just identifying them as a way to get them resources. Unfortunately, we see a lot of veterans who end up in Veterans Treatment Court self-medicating because of mental health issues, not realizing they have something that's undiagnosed. And that's not just our current generation. It goes all the way back to the Vietnam veterans. It's across all generations, whether or not you served in combat. It does not matter.
Now, some things that you're talking about, I know there's social groups, fraternal groups for veterans. You're a member of the VFW in Rocky Point, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and the Marine Corps League in Bayshore.
Yeah, and can you talk about how these groups, lend themselves to veterans, creating community, what that means for, their membership?
Sure. So unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of the membership, quote unquote, dying off because it's mostly the older generations that are joining these organizations right now. Unfortunately, has their reputation of it's just a bunch of old guys getting together and drinking beers. Well, they've said that for decades now. It's a bunch of veterans who do get together to support each other, and that's what we need. When you are in the military,
Socialization.
Correct. Yes, because when you're in the military, you're surrounded by the military culture. Even if you're stationed here in the country, I was stationed in Camp Pendleton in California, but my whole life was military. All my friends, the way I interacted, where I went shopping, where I went to work. Because when you step outside military, it's a culture shock, even if you were stationed in this country, because
you're on your own.
Exactly.
And you don't have the support services that the military provides. And when people get detached from service, when they get their DD-214s, when they get detached from service, they need sometimes, not everyone, but now and then, you need a little bit of support. And we have veterans groups such as the VFW, the American Legion, and a whole host of other veterans, the Marine Corps League, a whole host of other veterans groups. But guess what? As these groups decline in terms of membership, because newer members coming out of the service aren't joining these groups, these posts are closing. They can't afford to stay open because of maintenance and other costs. That's a concern. One of the things I'd like to see this county do is think about housing for veterans. And, for example, I was over at Krabreski Airport, where the 106 Rescue Wing is, but the county has half that airport as a county airport. Right across the street, there's Coast Guard housing with 50 units, 25 duplexes. So it's two houses in one. And it's been boarded up since 2018. And I'm like, whoa, that's 6 years. Why aren't they, and these houses are not in that bad of condition. Why aren't we going in there, fixing them up, and making them available at a affordable rate for home ownership for our veterans? And, well, let me tell you, is there work out east? There certainly is. You know where the biggest traffic jams in this county are? They're on Sunrise Highway from about 5 o'clock in the morning till about 10 o'clock in the morning, and from 3 o'clock in the afternoon till about 7 o'clock in the afternoon, going either into Southampton or East Hampton or coming west on the way home, because people who are the tradesmen, it's called the trade parade, can't afford to live out there. Some of these tradesmen could be veterans. Some of them could qualify for housing. So there, I'd like to work with the legislature in getting those units immediately. They used to be Coast Guard. We'd need the federal government to set up a program to work with us so we could provide housing to veterans. I think that would be a wonderful opportunity. And there's other opportunities that abound as well. And I would hope that the federal government could provide some assistance for us to do this. I'll tell you one thing I would seriously take a look at. We have 40 acres of vacant land at the Selden campus of Suffolk Community College. Maybe we could take 10 acres and build a couple units and make them for veterans who are attending Suffolk. Like rental units, because they're not going to stay there forever, they're not going to live there. But it would encourage veterans to go who haven't gone to college to start off with their community college. So those are plans that I would love to work on the legislature in doing. And they're doable. They're small, but from small things come, much larger things if you do it right.
And especially with the large population of veterans we have, those attending Suffolk Community College, and especially if we get some of these pilot programs, if there's a real shortage of, let's say, nurses and other healthcare industries, hey, come on to Suffolk Community College. They live there. They start setting up roots, and that's how we're going to keep those families here.
That's exactly right. So I want you to take a look. That is in the district of one of your fellow legislators, Nick Caracampa. But there's 40 acres there that are vacant that the state wanted to do something with, and thank God they never did. So it's still vacant. I'm thinking, well, maybe we cut aside 10 acres, which isn't a lot. And you can probably get, if you build multifamily, 8 units to an acre. That's 80 units. And that would be for veterans attending Suffolk Community College. And you know what? I won't put an income restriction. If you're a veteran and you're attending Suffolk, you're entitled to rent one of these units. We'd have to have a lottery if we had more than, but we could start that now.
Yeah, and I think that's what we do here in Suffolk County is we have so many great programs, so many great initiatives that we're really setting an example for everyone else in the country of how you're going to combat that number of 22 a day, how you're going to make things better for those transitioning veterans.
Now, we have a veterans hospital here, okay? It's in Northport. And we have volunteers that drive buses from all over the county to bring veterans there to the hospital. When I was a county legislator, I represented the East End. So I fought to have a post at the county center in Riverhead for veterans for some of the minor stuff so they didn't have to travel the long distance that it takes to get to Northport. But we have to make sure that Northport is serving our veterans and all the medical needs they have, because a lot of people have a choice. You can either get a Medicaid or you can get other health plans. But if you're a veteran, you're entitled to medical care.
Yes, and especially when you have those VA disability service-connected ratings, you get more and more medical care for free from the VA.
Absolutely. Medical care for the VA is free. The other thing that I want to lobby for, and I had a press conference, and I appreciate you coming out. Right now, if you're a combat veteran, you can get tuition assistance, so you can go to a college like Suffolk Community College for just about for free. What about if you're not combat? Well, the legislature, state legislature, both houses, the Assembly and the State Senate, passed a bill that said all you have to do is be a veteran, and you would qualify. Those bills have been sitting on the governor's desk since the end of June.
And that's part of the fight that you have is saying just combat relatable. What about the Marine Corps has mortuary affairs?
Right.
Those are Marines who are preparing the bodies of fallen service members to come back home.
Right.
They may not be in a combat zone, but they feel the effects. How about the truck drivers in Germany and around the country, around the world, that are transporting the bodies and their belongings when they come back home? That's traumatic as well. That's part of the combat.
Absolutely. And if no one understands that, I recommend they see the movie Taking Chance.
Absolutely.
Because it's about taking this guy, Chance, who was killed in combat, home to his home in Wyoming.
Yes.
That was a great movie.
Fantastic.
And people who care for veterans showed respect along the way.
Yes.
As the body was transported home. And it was just a great movie. And it showed some of the impact of people who have to prepare these bodies so that they're clean and presentable as much as possible. But yes, we owe our veterans a great deal. Our country would not exist except for men and women who step forward and volunteer army. I'll serve. I'll agree to serve. And they don't know where they're going. because when you sign on, you don't know if you're going to be based in the States or in California or in Alaska or Hawaii or Germany or wherever. But you sign on, or if you're going to be in the Middle East, because some of our veterans have suffered from some of the attacks on their bases in the Middle East that has been launched, and that's a concern.
To this day, they still get attacked, and you are
Absolutely.
stationed all over the world. And even like if you look before the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, let's say in the year 2000, there's no wars at the time, but you're still signed up, so you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know where you're going to be sent the next day.
Absolutely. So our veterans deserve all the help, support that they can get. And not every veteran is looking for support, because many are independent, are capable of doing their own, but some of them do need some help. And some of them need medical treatment as well.
And they get a lot of benefits too. These are not entitlements; these are benefits earned, such as service-disabled veteran-owned businesses. 4% of all federal contracts go to that. 6% for the state. So if you are owning your own business and you have a disability rating of 10% or more, you can sign up and be on that list.
County Executive, I know we talk about veterans coming home and the respect they're paid now, but that wasn't always the case. Some people my age may not know, from Vietnam, from some of these earlier wars, veterans weren't always treated, with, as maybe they should have been. I don't know if you could maybe talk to a little bit about that.
Well, World War II, veterans were respected and welcomed home because they saved the world from a fate that no one wanted to see. Less so a little bit in Korea, because it was kind of the forgotten war. It lasted from, I believe, June of 1950 through the truce, the armistice in July of 1953. So it lasted for 3 years. But it was fought on the Korean Peninsula. It didn't expand, although there was some concern about that. And it was kind of a seesaw war, because after the Koreans attacked, the North Koreans attacked us and drove the South Koreans and Americans back to the Pusan Peninsula. We were already at the edge, and then MacArthur came and landed at Incheon.
Chosen.
And then sent them back. But then we went beyond. There's a dividing line between North and South Korea, and they went beyond that to the Yule River, which is the border with China. And that's when the Chinese came in huge numbers. And no one forgets the retreat there that we had. It was a terrible time. But, and then Vietnam came. And Vietnam was an unpopular war, because they viewed that as a civil war between the North and the South, and they didn't want to get involved. And look, the sadness about that is leadership makes a difference. John Kennedy, as our president, would not have involved us to the extent. He, as a United States Senator from Massachusetts, spoke out against American involvement in Vietnam when the French were there, Indochina, Dien Bien Phu, which was the big battle that ended the French occupation and split Vietnam into two nations, North and South. And his last interview with Walter Cronkite in September of 1963, he said, we have advisors there. I'm going to try to bring some of them home. They had about 17,000, 16,000 advisors at that point. But we're not going to get involved in combat. It's for the South Vietnamese to fight. Unfortunately, he was assassinated, and our vice president at the time, the new president, Lyndon Johnson, had a different view of life. And he thought we should act tough and we should send troops in. And we wound up sending over 500,000 troops at one time into South Vietnam. And it just was not the place where our strategies were going to prevail. And a lot of people got kind of messed up in that war. And that was sad, because after that, American power was challenged. And and for the rest, the war ended when Nixon and later President Ford decided to bring our troops home. And South Vietnam fell to the north, and now it's just Vietnam, and it's a communist nation. But after that, our country was not as well respected. And the first time we began to get a little pride back was under Reagan, when we invaded Grenada. And then from there, we began to demonstrate our power and strength of invasion of Panama. So it was interesting. And then our invasion of Iraq, when they invaded Kuwait, and we were able to drive them out, but very wisely. Once we achieved our objectives, we left. Foreign policy is a difficult thing. But you know what? Despite the people making foreign policy, the men and women making foreign policy, it's the men that fight. It's the men and women that fight, that volunteer, that serve. And you're absolutely right. Not only the people in combat, but those who drive trucks, those who handle supplies and logistics, those who do those type of things, intelligence. All of those contribute, because I still believe in the promise of America, and that America has the ability to do good.
And we have been doing a lot better by veterans since then, in how we honor them and the services that we offer, and
I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent.
No, it's good. It just have you had time to work with the Veterans Court, the Suffolk County Veterans Court, and met with Judge Mather?
Yes.
So in criminal court, we have the Veterans Treatment Court. When I was in the DA's office, I was a prosecutor for Veterans Treatment Court in District Court in Central Islip, as well as the East End courts.
Right.
And it's the Vietnam Veterans America, the Green Jackets,
Yes.
are the ones who are the mentors there. And today, I would say, to speak on behalf of the current generation of veterans, we stand on the shoulders of giants, because those men and women were treated horribly when they came home.
Yes,
Spit
they were.
on, forced to change their uniforms in the middle of the flights coming back home. And, they just went right to work from there and didn't talk about their service. And we're doing a lot better. There's still a lot more for us to do. But the way I was treated when I came home was a direct result of how the Vietnam veterans demonstrated how people should be treated, and welcome them home, and welcome home to our Vietnam veterans.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service. Not only you, but all of our veterans, because our country would not stand today.
And that's the thing, too, is people talk about the cost of war. It's not just to man, train, and equip for war, but it's taking care of those when they come home. That's the cost of war as well. It is a lifelong price to pay, especially for some who may have come home, but part of them did not come home. And we have to take care of those.
And our Veteran Service Agency is located right here in the H. Lee Dennison building on the 3rd floor. And anyone that needs a little assistance or advice or guidance, please, 631-853-VETS, VETS, or 631-853-8387. Call if you're seeking advice, guidance, help, whatever. It's there. Or if you want to go on our webpage, it's veterans, all small, no capitals, veteransinfo at SuffolkCountyNY.gov. And help is available. And we want to make it available. And we want to do as much as we possibly can, because these are the men and women that defend our country. These are the men and women that raise their hand, because this is an all-volunteer army. No one has forced these people to join. They joined out of a sense of obligation and duty to their country, and a hope for a better life, because sometimes the Army can provide that better life. You get benefits by serving your country. You get educational benefits. You get other benefits. You get medical benefits by serving your country.
And even if you're not eligible for Suffolk County benefits, those caseworkers there, they could connect you to state services, to federal services, to any other external. We even have lots of not-for-profits that locally on the island that those caseworkers can connect you with. So they're nodes of information.
Absolutely. And the one thing that people say is constant in life, the two things that are constant: death and taxes. Well, guess what? If you're a veteran, you get a discount on your property tax. There's no better. If you're a veteran, talk to your local town or village. They will tell you get a discount as a veteran. So you do not pay the full boat. That's our way of saying thank you, our fellow citizens. Thank you for your service.
And the tax benefits come in there, the tax deductions come in there with the veteran status. So if you have an expeditionary medal, Purple Heart medal, service-connected disability could be in there. So there's a lot there. So talk to the town, talk to the county. And I would also say call our veteran service agency just to say, I'm a veteran. I just want to see what's out here. Is there anyone you can connect me to? I live in this area. And they're a great resource just to find out more what's there. And maybe you want to be someone who's volunteering your time to help support. Call up the Veteran Service Agency, and I'm sure they'll be able to connect you with somebody.
Absolutely.
Legislator, with Veterans Day coming up, can you say what that means to not only veterans, but to active duty service members like yourself?
Sure, there's two big holidays, Memorial Day and Veterans Day.
Yes.
Memorial Day is a somber time to remember those who we have lost, but Veterans Day is a celebratory time. We're here to celebrate the veterans and their service and what they've done. It's a time to make sure that we all get together as veterans, check on your veterans, make sure they're doing all right, celebrate them, thank them for what they've done, because some have spent a few years, some have spent a lifetime in service.
And that would be a great time also to join some of these groups we were talking about a little bit earlier.
Absolutely. Yes.
And November 11th, happy Veterans Day. Let's always remember our veterans. Let's always thank our veterans. Again, happy Veterans Day on November 11th.
All right.
All right.
So I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you guys for listening. And